Da Vinci painted in layers of glazes. So the picture has this amazing depth and inspires you to think about a person.
For hundreds of years, Leonardo da Vinci's paintings have amazed the world. But new scientific studies have found something that shocked experts completely.
We know that he was insatiably curious about reflections and refractions and optics and the human anatomy of the eye.
Using special imaging tools, researchers looked under layers of old paint and saw details no one had noticed before. What they discovered makes us question everything we knew about the artist and his work. Some say it shows secret knowledge, while others think it was meant for future generations. What did they really find? Join us in this video as we reveal the details. What scientists saw in Da Vinci's painting. For centuries, the Last Supper has been treated as a holy image meant to inspire faith, obedience, and reflection. It hangs in the mind as a familiar scene. Jesus sits calmly at the center of a long table. His 12 followers are gathered around him. Bread lies within reach. Wine is poured and shared. At first glance, nothing seems unusual. Everything appears peaceful, even balanced. Yet, when the painting is studied slowly and carefully, it begins to feel less like a simple religious scene and more like something carefully engineered. Many researchers now believe Leonardo da Vinci did not create this work to be read in one way only. Instead, he appears to have built it as a layered structure, designed to carry meaning far beyond what the eye immediately sees. Leonardo was not a man who accepted things at face value. He distrusted easy answers and questioned authority. He believed that truth was often hidden beneath appearances and that real understanding required patience, observation, and doubt. Because of the religious power of his time, openly challenging belief systems could be dangerous. Instead of writing his thoughts plainly, Leonardo developed methods of concealment. In the Last Supper, he avoided obvious symbols and direct statements. He chose a subtler path. He used arrangement, spacing, balance, and movement. Every figure, every object, and every line appears to have been placed with intention. What makes this approach especially effective is how ordinary the scene looks. A meal shared between teacher and students was a familiar image in religious spaces. A painting like this would not raise suspicion. It would be accepted, respected, and protected. That made it the perfect place to hide ideas that could not safely be spoken. The painting becomes a kind of quiet container, holding meaning without announcing it. One of the strongest signs of this deeper design is the mathematical structure beneath the surface. The apostles are not arranged randomly. They are placed in groups of 3. This repetition creates rhythm and balance across the table. Each group reacts differently, yet the structure remains stable. There are 4 such groups, stretching from one end of the table to the other. This repeated pattern suggests planning rather than instinct. It gives the entire scene a measured order. At the very center of this arrangement sits Christ. His body forms a strong triangular shape. While the apostles move, gesture, and react with emotion, he remains calm and still. This contrast is striking. Chaos surrounds him, yet he becomes the anchor that holds everything together. The triangle has long been associated with strength, stability, and harmony. By shaping Christ in this way, Leonardo appears to be placing him as the fixed point in a storm of human reaction. Beyond grouping and shape, the painting also follows numerical patterns found in nature. The layout of the space, the placement of walls, windows, and figures, and the way the background is divided, all reflect a sequence that grows step by step. This sequence appears often in plants, shells, and natural growth. Leonardo studied it closely and believed it revealed the hidden order of the world. By embedding this pattern into the painting, he connected the spiritual moment at the table to universal laws that govern life itself. This careful design transforms the painting into more than an image. It becomes a system. Each part depends on the next. Remove one element, and the balance breaks. The viewer may not notice this structure consciously, but it influences how the scene feels. The eye moves naturally toward the center. The mind senses order beneath emotion. The painting does not rush the viewer. It invites them to pause, to observe, and to question. Rather than telling a clear message, the image encourages reflection. It resists quick interpretation. The longer it is examined, the more relationships appear. Gestures begin to mirror each other. Distances feel intentional. Even empty space seems measured. The painting behaves less like a picture and more like a carefully assembled map. In this way, The Last Supper quietly fulfills Leonardo's belief that the most powerful truths are not shouted. They are hidden, waiting for the patient observer to find them. If the structure, numbers, and balance of the painting already suggest a hidden design beneath the surface, then what happens when we stop looking at the figures themselves and begin to examine the ordinary objects on the table? Let's delve deeper. Objects, sound, and the quiet language of symbols. While structure and numbers form the foundation of the Last Supper, the objects placed on the table add another layer of meaning. At first, the food appears simple and appropriate. Bread and wine dominate the scene. Their symbolism is well known and deeply rooted in Christian belief. They represent sacrifice, unity, and covenant. Yet when the table is examined closely, other items appear that complicate this message and raise questions. One of these objects is a fish placed among the food. The fish has long held symbolic meaning, often linked to faith and survival. However, in this painting, the fish is intentionally unclear. It cannot be easily identified as one specific type. This ambiguity matters. Different fish carried different meanings in symbolic language. Some were associated with humility and simplicity, while others suggested deceit, slipperiness, and danger. By refusing to clarify which fish is shown, Leonardo leaves the symbol open. The viewer is forced to decide what they see. In doing so, the symbol becomes unstable, reflecting the uncertainty and tension of the moment. Other objects on the table deepen this sense of unease. Oranges appear in the scene, even though they do not belong to the historical setting. Their presence breaks accuracy on purpose. This suggests that Leonardo was not trying to recreate history exactly as it happened. Instead, he reshaped the scene to communicate ideas familiar to his own time. In symbolic traditions, certain foods were linked to indulgence, excess, and false appearances. Placing them near sacred elements creates discomfort. It suggests that corruption and hypocrisy can exist even in moments meant to be holy. Pomegranates add yet another layer. Their hard outer skin and exposed seeds have long been associated with blood, sacrifice, and fate. They symbolize life and death at the same time. The seeds suggest unity, while their dark color hints at suffering. In the context of the painting, they quietly echo what is about to happen. The shared meal is not just a moment of togetherness. It is the beginning of loss. Perhaps the most unsettling idea connected to the painting is the claim that it contains sound. The placement of hands and bread along the table has been interpreted as forming a musical pattern. When translated into notes, this pattern produces a short piece of music. Played normally, it sounds disordered and unclear. Played in reverse, it becomes slow, heavy, and mournful. The reversal mirrors Leonardo's habit of writing backward, reinforcing the idea that meaning must be approached indirectly. This sound does not resemble celebration. It does not feel joyful or hopeful. Instead, it feels like a lament. The idea that a painting could carry a hidden funeral tone changes how the scene is understood. The moment becomes less about surprise and more about inevitability. It suggests that what is coming cannot be stopped. Together, these objects and patterns form a quiet language. Nothing is explained openly. Nothing is forced. The painting does not demand belief. It invites observation. Through simple items, careful placement, and subtle rhythm, it communicates ideas about betrayal, decay, and fate. The silence of the image is heavy, not empty. It holds meaning that reveals itself slowly, rewarding patience and careful attention. In this way, the Last Supper becomes more than a religious image. It becomes a layered message, built to endure time, decay, and misunderstanding. What remains is not just paint on a wall, but a carefully arranged silence, still waiting to be fully understood. If the world into which Leonardo was born set the stage, how did his early years and upbringing shape the curious mind that would one day change the world? Stay tuned for more. The formative years and early genius of Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci is remembered as one of the most amazing people to ever live. Not because he did one thing well, but because he did so many things and wanted to know about everything. He was more than just a painter. He studied the human body and tried to understand how it worked. He drew maps and studied the land and the skies. He looked at plants and animals to learn how nature worked. He built machines and thought about how they could move or fly. He also explored numbers, music, and theater. Over 500 years ago, he was combining art and science in ways that few people could even imagine. For Leonardo, everything was connected. He did not see art as separate from science, or science as separate from art. To him, learning about the world meant looking at it from many angles, asking questions, and testing ideas. Leonardo's early life helped shape the way he thought. He was born in 1452 in a small town in Italy called Vinci. He was the child of a notary, but his mother was a young peasant girl, and his parents were not married. Because of this, Leonardo could not take on his father's work as a notary, which might have seemed like a problem at the time. But in truth, it gave him freedom. He was free to follow his own interests instead of doing what was expected. He did not go to a formal school. He had tutors who taught him the basics of reading, writing, and math. But much of what he learned came from watching the world. His grandfather and uncle encouraged him to explore the outdoors. He spent time observing animals, plants, insects, and other parts of nature. He learned by looking carefully, noticing small details that most people missed. This early habit of watching and thinking became the foundation for everything he did later. It helped him develop a mind that was curious, careful, and willing to experiment. When Leonardo grew older, his talent for art became obvious. His father noticed how well he could draw and took his work to a famous artist in Florence named Andrea del Verrocchio. Verrocchio was very impressed by Leonardo's skill and encouraged him to become an artist. Leonardo became an apprentice in Verrocchio's workshop, which was one of the best in Florence at the time. Florence was a city full of ideas and art, supported by the powerful Medici family. Artists could experiment and learn in ways they could not elsewhere. In the workshop, Leonardo learned many skills. He did not just paint, he studied sculpture, mechanics, metalwork, chemistry, woodwork, and design. He learned how materials behaved and how machines worked. He learned both practical and theoretical knowledge. The workshop was a place where young artists shared ideas and helped each other. Leonardo absorbed everything. He was curious about how things moved, how light fell on surfaces, and how to make objects look real. His training there gave him both skill and imagination. Leonardo's early work showed how special he was. Even while still an apprentice, he contributed to important works like the Baptism of Christ.
Leonardo da Vinci was about 19 years old when he got the chance painting some details and characters of this Baptism of Christ.
He painted an angel that was so realistic and delicate, it stood out from the rest of the painting. Many historians say this moment showed Leonardo's unique talent. He later worked on his own paintings, including The Annunciation, showing his attention to perspective and detail. He became a recognized professional and joined the Painters Guild. But he continued to learn and collaborate with others, showing that he valued growth and knowledge more than fame. Leonardo was patient, willing to spend time perfecting his skills rather than rushing for recognition. Even with all this talent, Leonardo faced difficulties. In 1476, he was accused of sodomy, which was a serious crime at the time. The charges were later dismissed, but the event was likely troubling. Scholars also debate Leonardo's personal relationships. There is no clear evidence he had relationships with women, and he had close bonds with male assistants and companions. Many conclude he may have been gay. Beyond relationships, he sometimes struggled with his own feelings. He questioned the meaning of life and had moments of sadness or frustration. Despite his talents, he was human, dealing with the same kinds of emotional challenges anyone might face. This curiosity and thoughtfulness shaped his work. He did not just create beautiful paintings, he explored ideas, questioned assumptions, and experimented with everything around him. These early experiences helped Leonardo become the extraordinary figure he is remembered as today. His curiosity, freedom from strict education, careful observation of nature, rigorous training, and personal struggles all combined to make him one of the most remarkable people in history. His life shows how observing the world, asking questions, and combining art with science can lead to discoveries that inspire generations. While Leonardo's early life shaped his mind and talents, how did these experiences and his relentless curiosity translate into the masterpieces and innovations that would secure his place in history? Let's find out. Da Vinci's masterpieces and lasting impact. The Last Supper is one of Leonardo da Vinci's many masterpieces, and he is regarded as one of the finest artists in history. It shows the moment when Jesus informs his followers that one of them will betray him, and was painted on the wall of a simple church and monastery in Milan in 1495. Leonardo's ability to show human emotions and movements is seen by this careful arrangement. The setting feels alive because each stance and motion pass a story. Leonardo's use of linear idea is among the Last Supper's most striking elements. He showed Jesus' importance by drawing the viewer's attention directly to him with a single vanishing point at his forehead. Leonardo even made tiny incisions to direct the architectural lines and hammered a tiny nail into the wall to show the exact location. It appears as though the scenario stretches into the actual room when viewed from the side. Leonardo captured emotional depth in addition to technical mastery. He wants people to be able to see the apostles' intentions and ideas just by looking at their facial expressions and gestures. Beyond painting, Leonardo had other goals in mind. In order to honor the Duke of Milan's father, he worked for years on a big bronze horse statue. Leonardo built a big clay model after closely studying horses. The height of the statue would have been 7 meters. Sadly, the clay model was destroyed by French troops after the bronze was diverted to manufacture guns during a conflict. Despite the project's failure, Leonardo's careful planning, human understanding, and ability to mix engineering and art are all clear. Later, Leonardo relocated to the Loire Valley in 1516 with the help of a French monarch. He kept working on his well-known works, like as the Mona Lisa, which is thought to show Lisa Gherardini, a wealthy merchant's wife. Leonardo was able to create soft edges and a lifelike look by blending colors seamlessly using the sfumato technique. In order to give the picture depth and realism, he also researched anatomy, light, and shadow. The Mona Lisa's enigmatic smile appears to alter depending on how it is viewed, and her eyes seem to follow the observer. Leonardo's profound comprehension of sight and how the human eye sees forms and shadows is shown by this effect. Leonardo continued to be interested by nature in his final years. He created the deluge images, which shows storms, floods, and untamed rivers, after researching the destructive power of water. His awareness of human weakness and his interest about nature are clear in these paintings. Leonardo kept a close eye on the world and used art, science, and engineering to try and figure out how everything worked. On May 2nd, 1519, Leonardo da Vinci passed away at the age of 67. His life shows the ideal harmony between science and art. His artwork helped communicate the beauty and intricacy of science, and he used his scientific understanding to enhance it. How did Leonardo da Vinci's early experiences in nature and his unorthodox education shape the hidden depths of his genius and the mysterious messages in his art? Let's learn more. Leonardo da Vinci, Hidden Dimensions of Genius. As a young man, Leonardo da Vinci spent a lot of time in the mountains near Florence, exploring nature. During this time, he is believed to have discovered a cave that made a deep impression on him. He recorded this experience in his personal notes, which shows that it had a strong impact on his mind. Scholars think that this encounter may have helped shape his unusual creativity. This period also corresponds with a time in his life when there are few records of his activities. Some have wondered if this missing time was a moment when he gained experiences that influenced his genius in ways we cannot fully understand. From a young age, Leonardo's imagination and skill were far beyond those of most people around him. He envisioned machines and devices that would not exist for hundreds of years. He combined science, engineering, and art in ways that were unique for his time. Some researchers and theorists have speculated that he may have had extraordinary experiences that inspired him, though others argue that his genius came from careful observation and hard work. Regardless, it is clear that Leonardo's ideas often seem to anticipate the future, making him one of the most innovative minds in history. Leonardo was also known for leaving hidden elements in his work. He used techniques such as mirror writing, unusual hand positions, and careful placement of objects to possibly encode messages. These details may have been intended for people in the future to discover. Modern investigations have shown that his works sometimes contain information that is not visible to the naked eye. This suggests that Leonardo was not just painting for beauty or for patrons. He was thinking deeply about knowledge, ideas, and communication. His paintings were more than images. They were carefully crafted to convey multiple layers of meaning. In his later works, such as St. John the Baptist, Leonardo explored how light and shadow can reveal or hide information. Figures in his paintings often emerge from dark backgrounds, and gestures seem to point towards something beyond the picture itself. These techniques create a sense that there is more to see than what first meets the eye. Some scholars believe he wanted his art to make viewers think, to question, and to search for hidden messages. His work shows that he was interested not just in representing the world, but in showing ideas about it, including ideas that may have been mysterious or even secret. Another important element of Leonardo's work was his interest in geometry, particularly sacred geometry. Symbols such as the flower of life were known in ancient times to represent the structure of the universe. Mystics and philosophers believed that these shapes reflected intelligence behind creation. Leonardo studied these patterns carefully and included them in his art and his scientific work. This shows that he wanted to understand how the world worked at a deeper level. He connected beauty, science, and mathematics, using each to inform the others. His careful attention to proportion, symmetry, and geometry helped him create works that were not only visually impressive, but also intellectually rich. Leonardo's study of science went hand in hand with his art. He examined how light moves, how the eye perceives images, and how reflections work. He studied human anatomy, water, and motion, applying this knowledge to improve his art. By understanding the natural world, he was able to show subtle details, such as the way shadows fall on a face, or how a hand gesture conveys meaning. These details were often used to communicate ideas or hidden messages. Leonardo's work demonstrates a careful balance between observation, experimentation, and imagination, showing how his scientific understanding informed his creative output. If the refectory and its purpose set the scene, then what secrets did Leonardo embed in the very walls and strokes of the painting that made the Last Supper more than just a meal frozen in time? Let's take a closer look. Leonardo's method and the journey of the painting of the Last Supper. Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper is famous all over the world. It is admired not only for its beauty, but also for the way Leonardo worked on it and the story it tells.
The Last Supper was painted here 500 years ago for the refectory of Santa Maria delle Grazie, but due to his experimental fresco technique, it started to flake away almost as soon as Leonardo da Vinci had finished it.
Unlike most painters of his time, Leonardo did not use the normal fresco technique. Usually, artists painted on wet plaster, which allowed the paint to sink in and last a long time. Leonardo chose something different. He painted on a dry wall. He used a mix of oil and tempera paints. This gave him a lot of control. He could make soft edges. He could blend skin tones and create gentle shadows. He could make the faces look very real. He could even adjust the gestures and expressions while he painted. This slow and careful method was unusual. It allowed Leonardo to make a scene that felt alive, human, and full of movement. But it also had a hidden risk. The paint did not sink into the wall. It sat on the surface. Over time, moisture and salts in the wall made the paint lift and flake. Smoke, dust, and humidity from the air gathered on the surface. All of this made the painting very fragile. The room where Leonardo painted, called the refectory, had its own challenges. It was a dining hall for the Dominican convent of Santa Maria delle Grazie. Monks ate there, and visitors could see the painting. The refectory was also open to the public in certain ways. It was not a protected gallery like we think of today. Because of this, the painting was always exposed to changes in light, air, and temperature. Over the centuries, many people tried to repair it. Some repairs helped, but some caused more problems. In the 16th and 17th centuries, restorers tried to fill missing areas quickly. Later, in the 18th and 19th centuries, copies were made. Some copies changed gestures or faces to match what people liked at the time. These changes made it harder to know exactly what Leonardo originally painted. The building itself also suffered. During World War II, the refectory was hit by bombs. Sandbags were used to protect the painting, but even this caused some damage. A doorway was cut into the wall near the painting, removing part of its lower edge. These things made conservation even more complicated. In 1978, a modern restoration began, led by Pinin Brambilla Barcelon. The project lasted more than 20 years. The team worked slowly, carefully, and with the help of science. They removed dirt, varnish, and layers of paint added later. Tools like infrared scans showed underdrawing and changes Leonardo made while painting. X-rays revealed denser pigments and repairs. Ultraviolet light helped identify varnish. Chemical tests separated original paint from later additions. These methods helped restorers see what belonged to Leonardo and what was added later. Climate control systems were installed to keep temperature and humidity steady. Visitor access was limited to small groups to protect the fragile painting. All of these measures made it possible to preserve Leonardo's work for the future. If Leonardo carefully planned every gesture, light, and line to guide the viewer's eye, then how did modern technology and scientific study uncover layers of meaning that even his own workshop copies could not fully reveal? Let's find out. Figures, gestures, and the mystery of John. The figures in the Last Supper are arranged with great care. Jesus sits at the center. Light from the window behind him frames his head and draws attention to him. Around Jesus, 12 disciples are arranged in 4 groups of 3. Each group forms a mini-scene within the larger painting. Their gestures and expressions are very detailed. Some look surprised, some look thoughtful, some reach out as if asking questions. Leonardo used light, hands, and body positions to guide the viewer's eye across the table. The table itself becomes like a stage, with each small action contributing to the main story. From left to right, the figures are Bartholomew, James the Lesser, and Andrew, Judas Iscariot, Simon Peter, and John, Thomas, James the Greater, and Philip, and Matthew, Jude Thaddeus, and Simon the Zealot. Judas sits back in shadow, holding a small purse, his posture closed. Peter leans forward with a knife in his hand. John has soft, youthful features and a calm expression. These choices reflect the roles each character plays in the Christian story. Each pose was carefully planned by Leonardo and supported by his underdrawing. Scientific studies, including infrared and pigment analysis, confirm that these arrangements were deliberate. Even small shifts in hands, gestures, or the angles of heads create a rhythm across the painting. A famous debate surrounds the figure to Jesus's right. Some say this figure is Mary Magdalene, not John. This idea became very popular after a modern novel suggested hidden secrets and bloodlines. Many people were drawn to the story and started looking at the painting in a new way. Some television shows and videos even used digital tricks to support this idea. However, careful studies of style, workshop copies, and underdrawing support the original identification. Leonardo used young male models with soft features, and copies from his studio show this figure as John in nearly identical poses. Infrared scans and pigment tests show that the original layers match the traditional interpretation. Modern technology has added even more insight. AI and machine learning examined high-resolution photos, multispectral scans, and X-rays. These analyses detected patterns in facial shapes, hand positions, and lines behind the figures. They confirmed a visual axis connecting John's jaw, a hand near Judas, and a faint arc behind Jesus. This axis guides the viewer's eye along the table and emphasizes the relationships between figures. The AI analysis shows that these choices were deliberate, planned early in the composition, and repeated in workshop copies. The combination of Leonardo's original work, careful restorations, and scientific study makes the painting readable and understandable today. Overall, The Last Supper shows Leonardo's genius in many ways. His method allowed subtle detail, careful gestures, and refined expressions. His arrangements tell a story while keeping the scene balanced. Modern restorations and scientific studies help us separate original work from later repairs. The identification of each figure, especially John, is confirmed by multiple sources of evidence. Leonardo's work blends art, faith, and human emotion, and the painting remains a masterpiece, studied, admired, and protected through centuries. What do you think about the paintings of Leonardo da Vinci? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for joining us as we uncovered the hidden secrets behind one of Leonardo da Vinci's greatest masterpieces. If this deep dive helped you see the genius, the mysteries, and the subtle messages woven into his work, don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video on your screen to explore more hidden truths from the world of art. See you there.